Hello, hello.
Welcome to. I think this is our first ever Wednesday night happy hour, isn't it?
This
I
is
think
first.
so.
We did Fridays, and then we've done Thursdays, but this is the first time on a Wednesday. So
We've done wrestling and Lamar Barbecue on Saturdays, but yeah, this is our first Wednesday happy hour. And because it's bad luck, I said cheers. Let me drink. So, like, I'm not regular stitious like Max. I have to follow all the rules. We're super proud of Heather because Heather has been invited to address her university.
very cool.
Yeah, I'm
Tomorrow
going. Well, it's actually Friday, but I have to leave tomorrow night in order to be up
get
for
there.
the super early panel. Yeah, it's a panel for the radio people at Western Carolina, so I'm very excited.
We're very proud. So we didn't want to cancel happy hour, so we moved it to tonight. So thank you all for joining us. And I see we've got Laurie Herrick in Maine and Lisa Bohannon in Queensbury, New York, and Jane Stevens in Lima, Ohio, and Kimberly Fluke in Arizona. Lots of congratulations for you, Heather. So thanks for joining us all tonight. Next week, Bob and Lamar will be here. But tonight, Max and I are doing our usual spooky, true, weird happy hour. But we'll talk about whatever y'all want. It's obviously for us every day. We're so lucky, Max, because it's spooky season all year round.
It is. Yeah. And of course, my birthday is on Halloween. So that may be the reason that I ended up the way I am.
It's coming up. Hey, Kathy and Charlotte. Whoa. It's going by so fast. Robin Valdez is in Costa Rica, I think. Man, that flew by. Yeah.
Somebody from Malta. Emily from Malta, Ohio. Okay.
Oh, wow. Let's see. Winston-Salem. Hi, Teresa Broom and Sue Sasek in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Sumter, South Carolina. Susan Smith. Amanda Byer says, sorry about the Phillies, Max.
Ooh.
What happened? How did the wheels come off?
It's a great question. They did so well at home, and then they lost the last two home playoff games. And that was last night. And I've heard from people, but sports gives you an opportunity to just enjoy something that adds a little interest in life. And yeah, I want my teams to do well, but I don't live and die by it. So. Oh well, it was
I was hopeful for you though. I really thought this might be your year.
I thought it was too. It certainly looked like it for a while. They were steamrolling, and all of a sudden the wheels.
It looks like. Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like Tony is ready to check in. Sheri.
Okay, get Tony. Tony is live at the NAB Radio's biggest night, the Marconi Awards at the Javits Center in New York City. Hey, Tone.
Hey guys, I keep double clutching the mute button. I don't know how well you can hear me, but I kind of feel like Wolf Blitzer from the floor of the Democratic Convention or something.
No, we can hear you great. Tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, so what you are looking at is the ballroom of the Javits Center in New York City, where there's about, 700-800 of radio's finest who are about to have a dinner. Someone with a really familiar voice just told everybody that the show is going to start in 15 minutes.
I was going to ask you if you'd heard me yet. So
Yes.
This year, I have the great honor and distinction of being the voice of radio's biggest night, the 2023 Marconi Awards. Hashtag the irony.
So I don't know how well you can see, but in the center of the screen is Curtis Sliwa, who is famously from the Guardian Angels.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Here's Sheri. Listen.
Do I sound like a professional announcer?
You really do. When they were testing the sound system before in this empty room, and all we heard was Sheri's voice echoing off the walls.
Somebody asked
Max had to coach me. I would say, Max, tell me how to say, do the nominees for whatever kind of.
When you need shallow phoniness, I'm your guy.
Max would say, no, say it this way, but make it up at the end. The nominees for CHR Radio Station of the Year are...
It's from a lot of years of doing
It's 3 letters, but you have to emote.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
You have to make it sound boss. CHR.
I did lots of years of your call is important. Someone will be with you momentarily. Listen closely as our options have changed.
So, who is the most other than Curtis Sliwa? Who else famous have you seen?
Well, that was our friend Mike McVeigh was talking to Sliwa.
Oh, very good.
Oh, Mike, yeah.
Yeah.
He's for me.
And I don't know. I'm going to try to get back toward our table, but the Wi-Fi is kind of sketchy up in here.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
what
we'll
would you
see.
expect? It's just a giant mass media event. I mean, what the
Yeah.
heck? Don't come around here looking
Yeah.
for sound and Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Why would you want that? So
Regina
yeah.
Well, I
So
hope that you have a magical night, because we have always, even though we've lost every single time, we've never walked away without a magical memory. That's for sure.
well, we've had some fun. Do you remember the year we got the voodoo candle in New Orleans
Oh yeah,
and burned it at the table?
I love the year Boz Scaggs was the surprise musical guest. I mean, who doesn't want to hear Lido Shuffle in person, right?
Oh, and don't forget Dr. Laura's son with the earplugs at the Boz Scaggs show.
That's Dr. Laura made her son. She had brought him. I think she beat us that year. She brought her son. He was maybe 11 to the Marconis and made him wear these enormous like ground control at the airport ear protectors during the Boz Scaggs set. And you could look at the kid's face and you knew that, oh, teenage rebellion, TikTok.
One of the listeners said you clean up nice. I just thought I'd pass that along to you.
Yeah,
thank you.
You look handsome.
Thank you so much. It's a little tough to hear in the noise here, but I'm heading back to our table. This is our table.
Somebody
that empty seat is mine.
If we were nominated this year, and the answer to that is no.
No,
we were not nominated. We were not nominated this year.
Be nominated again.
We won't be nominated again. That's okay because I am the voice of radio's biggest night.
Here's the program. Here's my salad.
23 Marconi Awards celebrating the best in broadcasting and podcasting. Now, your host. Say hi to everybody from Skyview for me. Hello, Skyview. Hello, my Skyview.
Oh, let me flip it down. Say hi.
Hello. Hey. Please enjoy radio's biggest night. I insist.
All right.
All right. Bye, Tone.
Bye, Tony.
I want to say hi to Megan Miller from Eugene, Oregon, and Dory Belkins live from Beverly Hills, Florida. Rosa Kings in Bangor, Jeffrey Rollins in Warner Robins, Georgia. Shannon Bloom says, happy early birthday, Max. We've got Renee in Wake Forest and Kay Lacey in Stanley, North Carolina. We've got Jack Bunny in Indian Trail and Regina Denton, hey girl, hey, from Florida Space Coast. Hudson, North Carolina, Cedar Rapids. We got a whole bunch of folks in the house tonight.
Yeah, we do.
So let's chit chat. Max, do you want to talk about what's coming up this week, or do you want to talk about the Dozier School episode?
Let's talk about the Dozier School for a little bit, because that was, I think, each of these episodes that we do is like a child, but this particular episode really, I think that of any of the ones we've done, I've been affected the most by this one. And of course, it's you can explain it, Sheri. It's about the school that was in Florida that was open for many years.
So in 1900, the Florida Reform School for Boys opened in Marianna, Florida, and it was meant to be a place where boys and young men who got into some trouble could be rehabilitated, educated, and returned to society to function as private citizens. So really, really nice on paper, and in no way unique, although some of the things that happened at the Florida Reform School for Boys are kind of tragically unique to the place. Within 3 years, by 1903, the state was bombarded with complaints that these boys were being brutalized. They were being beaten and assaulted and abused in unspeakable ways. And the state investigated, but, nothing ever happened. I mean, within the first decade of the school's existence, one after another of these complaints were filed. And the thing about the Florida Reform School for Boys, which later was renamed the Dozier School, so that's what we're talking about when we say the Dozier School, same place. The thing about this school, it was actually a prison, and they didn't even bother to call the boys students. They called them inmates. So they fully acknowledged the whole prison vibe that they were working there. Children as young as 6 years old would land as inmates at this school. And the infractions would make you just sit and weep. Skipping school. One boy was sent there because his parents were afraid he was going to fall in with a bad crowd. Petty crimes. An 11-year-old boy was sent to the Dozier School for shoplifting a dozen eggs. He shoplifted a dozen eggs during the Great Depression. And there was never any indication that he did anything with those eggs other than eat them, right? Mm-hmm. Although you could certainly go, well, he was probably going to throw them at buggies or what have you. A lot of these boys came to the Dozier School for truancy, just missing classes. One boy, he skipped school, but he never missed a day at his paper route. He couldn't bear to be inside, which is not a defense. Like, you got to go to school or whatever, but the punishment for not going to school should not be incarceration and then savage beatings, possibly sexual assault, and then murder with your body chucked into an unmarked grave. Can we all agree with that? That skipping school's bad, but that might be an extreme reaction. So, Max, pick it up with the White House boys.
So the White House is where the punishment was meted out for a lot of them if they had done something wrong. And the kind of punishment, they had this, it was like a strap that had metal sewn into it, and the leather, and they were beaten. And I don't mean spanked, and I mean beaten to the point that some of them died from the beating. I mean, some of the young men who went to the White House never returned. And of course, they ended up in some of these unmarked graves. And it was written in such a way. Sheri had me to read the account of one of the boys, and it was so haunting. I'm still bothered by it, to think that this is what happened. So here's some of the crimes that some of these young men had. They had no parents, and that's why they were sent there.
Yeah, so, they were orphans.
They didn't do anything wrong, and they sent them to prison. And it is haunting what happened there. And, it's funny, you were talking about the fact that in the first few years of operation that things came up, but then there were people that raised questions at different points along the line, like in the 1950s. And of course, the school was open until 2011, 2012, sometime around in there is when the school closed because of budget cuts. Not because there were crimes committed there, not because of anything like that. And you're thinking, oh, well, there's a lot of people that have been held accountable for that. And the answer is no.
No one.
These boys were murdered. They were killed. And they are in these unmarked graves that they found there. And in fact, we got a talkback message from a woman who knows one of the women who've written a book about this, and was
one of the archaeologists
who was doing the excavation there. And it is one of the most haunting stories that I've ever heard. And I hope for my part, I just hope that I was able to pay an homage to the young men who were there, who had to endure all this.
The thing that is so shocking to me about this story is, one, that the school was still in operation in 2011. Okay, that's shocking. Two, that the survivors are still fighting for justice right now as we speak. They put a memorial on the former school grounds back in January of this year. So this isn't ancient history. This is not like a long time ago, far, far away. This is happening right now. And there is no accountability. There is no justice. These children would be taken out of their dormitories, sometimes in the middle of the night, brought to the White House, tortured, beaten. Many of them didn't survive the brutality. Some were intentionally murdered because, And then, so there was a cemetery on the school grounds called Boot Hill Cemetery. So the school had its own cemetery. Make of that what you will. Why don't you? So they had a cemetery, but only a handful of the deaths could be accounted for in the school cemetery. And when archaeologists from the University of South Florida went in with ground penetrating radar, they found not a handful, not a few, but dozens and dozens and dozens of burial shafts and graves in the 1,400 acres that can comprise the school's campus. There are families whose children disappeared behind the gates of the Dozier School. And to this day, their surviving descendants have no idea what happened to them. No record that they lived, no record that they died. Not one individual guilty of brutalizing those children, not one was held accountable. And so, I like, my jam is outer space and aliens and reincarnation and spooky stuff. But Max and I were so haunted by this, so haunted by it. I was like, man, it's intense. It's hard. This has been hard to write. It was hard for Max to produce. I think it's a little hard to listen to, but damn, if you turn away from the truth, you know what happens? It gets to keep, the atrocities get to keep on keeping on. So, yeah.
And also what they did with some of these young men, and of course it was segregated, and the African-American boys really got the worst of it. And what they did is, we got rid of slavery in this country, and yet they started to use them as slave labor. They would sort of lease them out to people as slave labor in just deplorable conditions.
It was a program called convict leasing. It was outlawed in the 1930s, but it was a way around the constitutional amendment abolishing slavery. It allowed prisoners, men, women, and children in the corrections system to be leased to private businesses as labor. So we had children who were inmates at the Dozier School, and Regina asked, how could their parents send them there? You didn't send your kid to the Dozier School. They were kind of remanded there by the law. But for all kinds of like really sketchy, shady, simplistic reasons.
God bless you.
Anyway, a handful of states found a way to get around the laws, the constitutional amendment abolishing slavery, by leasing prisoners to work on railroads and pick crops and do labor for private businesses and help pave roadways.
Kate Tenlissy says, "Oh my God, why have I never heard of this?" And I have to agree with you, because when Sheri wrote this, and when she writes it and then she voices it, we go through it, and she said, "Had you ever heard of this?" And I said, "No, I had never heard of this before." You would think that a story this big, it would be much more a national story that everybody has heard of, but it's not. And somebody said you should do a podcast just about this. You could. There's so much information. There's so many layers to this. You could do a bunch of episodes just about the Dozier School.
It's really true that a lot of the episodes that we do as a one-time, because the way we think about true weird stuff is, all right, come here, come closer to the fire. We're going to tell you a story. Have you ever heard about, right? So each episode is a standalone story, but a lot of them, I would say probably 2/3 of the episodes we do, Max and I are like, man, you could do a whole season just on this.
Yeah.
And the Dozier School, there are some really interesting books about it, and some really powerful memoirs by survivors. And someone asked, when was the last boy murdered? That's a great question. And I cannot answer it for two reasons. One, the school did not keep great records for these boys, full stop. And the school was segregated. There was one building for white inmates and one building for black inmates. And the black inmates disproportionately died and found themselves dumped in the woods at a much higher rate than the white inmates. But between the school's poor record keeping and changes in privacy laws that happened maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, it's really difficult to answer such a simple question. I don't think anyone can tell you for sure when the last boy died at the Dozier School.
I don't think they know. you know.
Yeah. And look at Betsy. I'm from Florida and I've never heard about this. Joe Penny, are there survivors? You betcha there are survivors, and you'll hear some of them in the episode. But they're very old now. They call themselves the White House Boys, and they're in their 70s and 80s. We are running out of time. And I'll tell you what's happening. The powers that be are running the game clock out, because when these gentlemen die, the chorus of voices demanding justice and accountability will go quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're just waiting it out. I mean, they
Yeah.
really are, because there have been laws that have been, presented and then tabled and, to try to get some answers out of this. And it's just the most haunting of any of the episodes we've done. This has haunted me more
It's
than
appalling. Folks, we're going to lighten it up big time this Friday with a fabulous episode on axe murder. Trust me. Trust me. This one is just going to be the pick-me-upper your week's been waiting for. It's a good one. Y'all, I have a real thing. Like, what the hell are you doing attacking another human being with an axe? That is so deeply disturbed. One of the most infamous, unsolved mass murders in history was an axe murder. And I cannot wait to share the details of that story with you. Because after doing the Dozier School, Max and I needed something light.
because the previous week it was cannibalism.
It was cannibalism. But let me tell you what's coming up. So I keep everything written down here. Hang on. Oh, after axe murder, we're going to take you into an unsolved mystery in a very fancy hotel in one of America's greatest cities. And that's all I'll say. And that one, listen, you don't come to, if you wanted Friendship is Magic, you'd watch My Little Pony. If you're listening to True Weird Stuff, you know what you're here for, right? It's never going to be too fluffy.
Yeah, that one that's coming up, if you like cold cases, this is a fascinating cold case
And
that has so different
real good mystery.
I'm really excited about this one too.
Let me answer Debbie. Debbie, I hope I don't mispronounce your name. Debbie Spence Rincax. Where's Bob been? Girl, he's here every day. I mean, he's not here tonight because, we're talking about stuff that gives him the willies. But yeah, he's here. Bob he hasn't missed a day. No, he hasn't missed a day since I don't know, maybe last June. He had a doctor's appointment or something. No, he's here. I promise you. Hi, Julie Scoggins and Leah Holland and Patty Lawrence. Patty's asking if there's a happy hour tomorrow. No, and I apologize. Heather has been invited to be on a panel at her university, and it's a huge honor. It's a big deal, and she needs to be gone tomorrow. So rather than cancel happy hour altogether, we moved it to tonight. But no, there will not be. I apologize. There will not be one tomorrow. Jennifer Galding, Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. Oh yeah, that's a great book. Colson Whitehead's one of my favorite writers. Is that Mojo?
This is Mojo.
Hi, Mojo. Where's
Cooper? I can always tell Mojo by the eyebrows.
Yeah, hang on a second. I'll get Cooper.
Yeah, get Cooper.
Someone asked earlier, and I lost the comment. There's someone who had a UFO experience in North Carolina, and they asked if you were going to talk about them on the podcast. But I lost the comment. So whoever you were, please comment the name again.
Yeah, so that we can see it because it went flying by. Cooper. Hey, Cooper. Mojo has much more presidential eyebrows.
Yeah, and Cooper's got the mustache.
Yeah,
he does. Because I think Schnauzer means mustache. So
they're so cute.
I'm gonna have to hang on. Someone's come home from work, and so Mojo's wanting to get out. Hang on a sec.
Hey, Charlene Dubin. She said, I just stumbled across this. I've had rehearsal every day, but tonight. So happy to be here. Hi, Mojo and Cooper. Have you thought about doing an episode on AI? Yeah. I'm working on one. Some of these subjects are so vast that gotta find, I always look for what's the doorway into the story. I'm writing one right now that I'm super excited about. And when I write, I talk to myself. So I was sitting outside on the deck 2 afternoons ago, and I had my laptop in my lap and I was writing and talking to myself. And I didn't realize that my husband had come up behind me. And here's what I was saying. I was saying, part of what made arsenic such an incredibly powerful poison was the way that it mimicked the symptoms of so many common ailments: food poisoning, gastritis, pancreatitis, contaminated water. It was so easy for a wife to slip her husband a little poisoned soup. And he shows his face and he's like, I know I know what this is. I'm like, no, baby, I'm not trying to kill you. This is like research for an episode. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
But arsenic does mimic a lot of other things. That is
It really does. Did you know? See, a lot of people don't even know that arsenic is a naturally occurring element that's found in the Earth's crust all over the planet. Did you know that?
And if anybody tries to start feeding you like Gatorade kind of stuff, that's antifreeze. So if they keep on wanting to do that, if somebody's trying to poison you with that, but generally it's women poisoning men. That's usually what happens.
You know, it's so true. And especially if you take in a lot of true crime, you're like every third episode of 2020, Susan, you can't put antifreeze in the iced tea. They can test for that, right? Because
Teresa
we don't.
Grimm said poison spam.
Yeah, listen, how can you poison spam? I think that spam is immune to poison. But it's interesting that poisoning is considered like a woman's weapon of choice. Now, here's the good news, fellas. Statistically, this is like from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Poison is so far down the list of weapons commonly used to commit homicide. So,
but
cheers, everybody.
Poisoner is watching somebody die slowly and be their caretaker. And oh, that really is awful. You're so sick. Here's some more poison.
Can we talk about that? Because that's what I was saying to Kev. He's like, I would notice. And I'm like, the mistake a lot of these people make is they do it gradually. And so you're sick and then you're better and you're sick and then you're better. And, when you drop dead, people go, man, God, he was sick and then he was better. And maybe we should test his hair for arsenic. What the people of the olden times knew was, bitches, do not waste time. If you're taking him out, take him out in one go. Get him out of here. The episode that I'm working on right now, the perpetrator could, using your body weight, she was so skillful that she could calculate how many days until you went.
Wow.
So you want to make it go faster than that. Don't be like these people on Dateline. Well, first of all, don't be killing anybody. Okay? Do not be killing people. It's never worth it and you will get caught. But do not be like these people on Dateline and like pussyfoot around. If you're going to do it and then never tell a soul. Right, Max? You have to be able to keep the secret.
Yep, because I can hear. Let me see. It says, question from Mag. Correct, you are more comfortable as a co-host than a full-on co-host. As a co-host. Doesn't a co-host sound like something somebody does in a steel
like Cocoa Puffs?
Hi, I'm your Cocoa host. Would you
I'm
like
cuckoo for my Cocoa host.
Oh.
Well, do you want to answer?
Are you more comfortable as a co-host? I don't know. I mean, I'm better as a producer than I am being a co-host. I just think I'm better. That's what I'm wired for. I'm wired for how things are supposed to sound. That's just, I don't know. Because I mean, I worked in radio for years and I did shows. I had a show, but I just wasn't terribly successful with it. I mean, I was successful enough to get employment, but it just was, I'm just a better producer.
The thing is, like Max, the part of Max's job that he loves is the part where you don't hear him talking. Yeah. Like it's all that other stuff. And when we began, because True Weird, we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of when we began working on True Weird. We released it in January, but Max and I began working on it last November. And we realized really quickly that by luck or by chance, we had landed on something that pulled all of Max's talents and passions together into one place. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I like about it is you came and you wrote it, and you didn't really you didn't say, now I want it to sound this way. You said you go do what you want to do with it, which I really appreciated and enjoyed that. And the voice parts that I get to do, that was one of the things that I enjoyed doing in the Dozier School episode, was reading some of the accounts in somewhat of a dramatic way. And so it kind of pulled together acting experience I had and broadcast and producing. So all of those things, all the things that I've done in my career led me to being able to do True Weird Stuff. And that's one of the things that I really love about it. To me, I love telling audio stories. I love old time radio where they used to do that. Actually, they did it live. And I just love the idea of creating that, closing your eyes and you can see it with the sound. I just love that.
That's one of the really fun things for us is we're always looking for it's intentionally kind of like an old time radio storytelling vibe. Like we did that on purpose. We just recently, after some folks suggested it and requested it, we just recently started adding postmortems to every episode where we talk about the material, because True Weird is built like it starts in the story and you're in the story. We don't talk about what we had for lunch or how good Travis Kelce looked. Like we go right into it. And then at the end, we kind of talk about the episode. And a lot of times we cut so much for time. And some of the stuff that we cut, you really like wish you could share. So then we've put that back into the postmortem. And we have a stable of people who do voice work and sing and play music. And it's really, really fun. My husband, Kevin, is going to make an appearance playing a character on an upcoming episode.
Heather did.
Excited.
Heather did. On one, yeah. I'm trying to remember which one it was. But
Clara Phillips, the Hammer Killer.
That's right. That's right.
Her immortal line. Do you remember your line, Heather?
No.
Darling, I've just killed the one you love the most. Now I'm going to make you the most delicious dinner.
See, that was a hammer murder rather than an axe murder.
Yeah.
I mean, because axes are so yesterday. I mean, it's hammers now. We're all about hammers now.
Wow. You want to give the people a break from axe murder and cannibalism. Let's do something a little bit lighter. Let's do arsenic or perhaps a claw hammer. Like, let's do something a little bit.
Someone asked if the axe murders you're talking about this week are the Villisca axe murders.
No, but I'm familiar with that case. No, I'm doing I'm doing a case. My true crime, where are my true crime people at? My true crime people will, I think, probably be at least a little bit familiar with the case that we're going to cover this week. I wanted to address this one for a couple of reasons. There's a really weird twist at the end of this. Max, remember? There's and I don't want to spoil it, but there's just when you thought, well, my goodness, this is the worst that human beings can be. Just when you think you've checked off every box of bad behavior, here comes the cherry on top of the bizarro sundae, because human beings are wonderful and terrible all at the same time.
Julie Starr Scoggins has offered to do voice work for us. And let me tell you what the pay is. It's the pay we're getting.
Yeah. Oh, listen, I will invite each and every one of you. If you have a special talent or you want to be one of the voice characters on an episode, DM us and we'll take you up on that. But Max and I, we're losing money on this. Like nobody's getting paid on this. Yeah. You listen to the credits. Like I literally sat on every member of my family. Do you have any talent at all? Well, let's show mommy what you got. Like every aspect of this show is a very grassroots. What's that? What are those old movies where Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney? The ones where they go out in the barn and put on a show.
Hardy.
Yeah, that's us.
Hardy movies. Yeah,
that's us. Me and Max. So Mia says, I like the science theme, True Weird, more than the crime. Mia, if I had my way, that's all we would do is science. But, I got to balance it because there are people that only want to hear spooky supernatural, like the Black Eyed Kids episode. Although we have a ghost story coming up. We have a ghost story that's absolutely true. And in some ways, it is such a beautiful story about love, but it's a haunting story about love. And the twist is, who's the ghost? So not everything involves, axes and arsenic and Heather killing her love rivals with hammers and then cooking dinner. Let's see. Allison Bell says if we need dogs barking in the background, she's got that.
You've got dogs barking in the background all the time.
Adam Parker says, when are you going to do a sports themed episode? I know so little about sporty balls. Max, I bet there's a good Bizarro sports episode we could do.
I'm sure that there's something. Yeah.
Hey, didn't we talk about the boxer Jack Dempsey in the William Goldensup episode we did?
Yeah.
That was kind of sportsy adjacent toward the very end.
Yeah.
Luis, Carol Cardenas, I heard the Black Eyed Kids episode at 10 a.m. and couldn't sleep that night. Girl.
That one, it's funny. That was one that people really seem to be spooked by.
I'm really spooked by that one. For a lot of reasons, there's something so unholy and terrifying about evil, sinister children, or evil masquerading as a child, depending on how you want to.
Maria, I can't pronounce your last name. She loved the James Van Prague episode where we were talking about afterlife, near death kinds of things.
Yeah, James, if you want to be uplifted, if the world is too much for you right now and you're struggling, which a lot of us are right there with you, listen to the episode called Talking to Heaven. James Van Prague is a spiritual medium and a best-selling author, and he's been all over. Once you see him, you'll go, oh, I've seen this guy on television. He has had the gift or talent to communicate with the living who have passed on since he was like a toddler. And the ending of that episode, wasn't that not so uplifting, Max? And so life-affirming and so hopeful?
Yeah, that was one that was really hopeful as compared to the axe murders and the cannibalism. But no, that was a very uplifting episode. I loved that one.
I did too. And we had Seth Shostak on. He's the senior astronomer for SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And he came right out and said, in a couple of years, we'll know for sure. We'll have evidence and proof that we're not alone in the universe. Absolutely.
He said lots of interesting things. One of them is, he says, if they're here, they're very polite. That was one of the things that he said. And the other thing that I heard that I thought was very hopeful, he said, apparently they have been able to continue developing technology without destroying themselves. That's one of the things that we worry about here. Yeah. We have all this technology, but will we survive long enough to be able to, continue? So I thought that was something that offered a lot of hope too.
Because I'm such a space nerd. So two of my favorite episodes are True Space Cowboys, which looks at the 24th mission of the Space Shuttle Columbia. And it is a better story than any movie and awesome because it's 100% true and it'll blow your mind. And then the Moonstruck episode on the conspiracy theory that the moon is a hollow alien base. And if you're a science buff, listen up. There's a lot of science in that episode. We broke down all the theories about what the moon is and how it ended up in our sky, right up to the current moment, what astronomers are looking at now. And you will walk away unsettled. And that's not even I'm not even asking you to believe that there are aliens or that the moon is hollow. Just when you realize that what you were taught in school is not true and science no longer accepts it. How was that for feeling the ground shift beneath your feet, Max?
We also did another one called Is Anybody Out There? Where we talked about the radio waves that were coming from and going out, and that was a fascinating one as well.
That's another favorite. We looked at the Fermi paradox and the Drake equation, and we like, okay, if the universe is teeming with intelligent life, where is it? And so we looked at all of the theories and hypotheses for and against, and that was great fun. Like, I could do that every episode. Like, every episode for me could be science and space and astronomy, and I would be as happy as can be. But we
And
try to shake it up.
I know we said this the last time when we did this, but if you can rate and review, if you listen to us, especially something like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or one of those, if you could do that, it is very helpful to us, because it helps us in getting the podcast discovered. So if you would just take a few minutes and just say something, preferably nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're an independent show, and the biggest challenge in podcasting is discovery. Now, of course, we had a jump start because we opened True Weird in the Oddcast feed to expose it to all of our Oddcast listeners that might, like to take a little walk on the wild or weirder side. But still, it's really hard, and so many people work really hard. Max turns himself inside out on every episode. And I think we calculated that every episode's about 20 hours.
Yeah.
Worth
And
of research and writing.
Every episode, I have the raw audio of what you've read, and I go, it's not going to happen this week. I don't know. It's just not going to happen. I don't know how to.
I will say, and it always does, because you're fabulous. I will say that I needed this project at this point in my life. Like, I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, and I look at the clock, and if it's earlier than 4 a.m., I have to stay in bed. But if it's 4 a.m. or later, I'm allowed to get up and go write for a while. Like we live inside every story, and then we move on to the next one, right? But when you're living inside the story, it's just, you're like, I just want to get back to it. I want to get back to it. I want to get back to it. It's really, really creatively joyful and fulfilling.
And after each episode posts, then Sheri and I have a post-mortem on our self-loathing about what we could have done better.
Oh yeah, and there's
in the episode
room for improvement. So Erica Wolf, I'm really glad you asked this question. What made you guys decide to splinter off and do these podcasts on the side? Don't get me wrong, I love them all, but I truly worry about you guys burning yourselves out, and don't nobody need that. So I'm going to tell you just the straight up truth. I was burned out. I was a piece of walking, talking toast, and I needed something. I needed a side project that I didn't have to constantly like, oh, well, you can't talk about this. Nobody cares about the space shuttle. Oh, you can't talk about this. Nobody cares about that. And I was just like starved for a project that was a challenge, that was like, and so when I went to Max and I pitched this idea to him, I was like, this is going to be a passion project for us. Like, we ain't never going to get paid. It's going to be a lot of work. And Max was like, yeah, I'm in. Because I think he needed it. I think he needed it too.
Yeah. Well, I think creatively we both were feeling that we needed to do that. And also we're really proud of it. We really are. I mean, I put it up against any podcast that's out there. I'm very proud to be a part of this.
It's one of those things, like I was trying to explain this to Kev the other night, because I live in a family of artists, and visual artists and musicians, like they have this in them, and they need to put paint on canvas or draw or play the guitar or whatever, and it meets this need, and they just need to do it, whether they're rich and famous or it's just for their own pleasure. Well, being a writer's like that too, like I have more than I can handle just with my day job, but it's not the same kind of writing challenge. It's just not.
Yeah, and same as with producing, with doing all that stuff, the contribution that I have to that. I mean, it utilizes a lot of the same stuff that I do on the show, but it's something brand new. And I have to tell you, I've been very excited about it, and just feel very I just enjoy the creative process. Julie Star Scoggins has also said, I want you to get paid. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'd like that too.
that'd be swell. That'd be great. And we're gonna keep going. These are this is like intense because we do episodes. We do weekly episodes. We took one hiatus this summer because Max had lost his mom, and you can only you need time to think, right? But it's fun. This is fun for us. Like I cannot wait. What episode is this in? This one will be mid-November. Y'all, have I got a story for you about a devious dentist? I'm so excited to share these stories that are so twisted and insane. And you know what I want to do? I want to do an episode, Max, on some of the scriptural references that align with unexplained aerial phenomena.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's a heavy lift research wise. Some of these episodes are in process here, there, and everywhere. And, we circle back to them and we work on other things. So when I was a little girl, my mom, we didn't have TV or radio or phone or, groceries or hope, but we had books in the house. We had a lot of books in the house. And my mom, she never censored our reading. We could read whatever we wanted. And my God, there was nothing else to do on those long Wyoming winter nights. So I read everything 3 times. And my mom got a hold of a paperback copy of Chariot of the Gods by Eric von Daniker.
Oh, yeah.
And that certainly made an impression on 10-year-old me, for sure. And that's if you're a fan of Ancient Aliens, you've seen Eric von Daniker. He shows up on there a lot. He's still alive and kicking. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Casadega episode. What is Casadega?
Oh, Casadega is a town in Florida that's filled with mediums, spiritual mediums. Yeah. Yeah. I want to pay a visit to it. I want to go a town. When I said, I was telling Kevin about it, and Regina Denton, who told me about it, she was like, well, town is strong, like an intersection, but it's a very small. Yeah. Listen, y'all. America may only be a couple hundred years old, but it is bursting at the seams with kookiness. There is so much kooky history in this country.
Thank God for it.
Chris Neal asked a really good question. He said, how do you fact check some of this stuff?
Dude, I researched the bejeebers out of it, and as best as I possibly can. I try to get primary sources, like for the episode we did on Daisy Dell Simpson, the lady hooch hunter. I mean, I was able to, you can go into the federal archives and look at her employment documents, right? Her employment records, her badge, so that was true. Some of it you do the best you can. I can tell you that a lot of what you read on the internet is whack. Because even Wikipedia, and I'm a huge fan of Wikipedia, has wrong dates, wrong names, wrong death dates, wrong birthplaces. But if you can find a single primary source, then you can trace that person back out. And some of it you do the best you can and you're just not really sure. And I subscribe to a handful of, pay access databases for media people and journalists where, I really can look at police reports and news stories and stuff that go back. And I mean, some of it goes back to the late 1700s. But there's always, when you're dealing with the past, there's always a little bit of a loose thread where, I'm not sure. And there have been things I've cut out of episodes because I just couldn't find another source to back up the claim. So we do the best we can. And there are 2 things that I'm really, really focused on. And I want to thank Sister Mary English, my 10th grade language arts nun, for this. One is fact checking, and the other is that you're very, 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 very careful to credit people with their words and their sources. Like, you don't take credit for other people's work, which is why if you listen to an episode of True Weird Stuff, my daughters make fun of me. They're like, Mom, you give all the detail and all the context. Well, because I need you to know the person's name who said this thing, or who wrote that book, or who arrested that perpetrator, right? I think it's important to give people credit for their work.
Yeah, I love that the Lady Hooch Hunter. That was another favorite. They're like children. I love them for different reasons.
Wild West Pearl.
Oh yeah.
You know, Lady Hooch Hunter and Wild West Pearl, those are my girls. Those are my absolute girls. And you like, so, okay, so you know that Max and I are like really into true crime. Clearly, we're really into true crime. And I'm obviously like a complete tinfoil hat whack job on the subject of, aliens and space. But the other thing that this has really been a playground, we're just giant big history nerds. We're big history buffs. And this is a huge playground to be able to do that. Yeah, Susan Smith is right. Wikipedia is a good start. After that, you've got to go beyond it.
Yeah.
The Pearl Harbor episode, Wild West Pearl, is a great example. Regular people, like, we're just regular people. Our lives get lost in the incredible undertow of time, and records are kept, but not forever. And especially when you go back into the early days of the American West, like, you had your baby at home, and maybe a birth certificate was generated and filed, maybe not, right? So people get lost in the crush of history. And it's easy to make mistakes on birthplaces and dates and all that. So yeah, I always think you should double check if you can.
Because there's a lot of misinformation about Wild West Pearl, as you found out.
So much.
Yeah.
So much. And unnecessary. And hers is a great story. Let me tell you about Wild West Pearl. Let me tell you what. That girl was a survivor. She was trafficked as a prostitute, as a child, made to work with her sister in the town brothel, dressed up in boys' clothes and ran away from home and struck out on her own in Chicago and made it work.
What is happy about this?
This is the True Weird Happy Hour. This is the Weird Happy Hour. We're going to tell a really fun story about like people getting their eyeballs knocked out. Just give it time. Anyway, man, what a survivor. Like, she was smart and resilient and capable and strong. She was also reckless and adventurous and impulsive. But in all of the focus on, she robbed a stagecoach, this child was a survivor. I love her.
Yeah, the stagecoach robbery really is a tiny part of the story. I mean, it's the part that everybody remembers, but there's so much more to her story. And the Lady Hooch Hunter that is an amazing story, and how you came upon that story too.
Kev, Regina wants you to come back and say howdy to everybody. I was in the mob. Tony and I had time to kill before a flight. We were in Vegas for work, and we had the Uber take us to the mob museum. And we had an hour to kill. And there was this giant exhibition about all of the G-men and prohibition treasury agents, right? And there was one picture of this breathtakingly beautiful woman and a little teeny card about this big with 2 sentences on it. And I was like, that will not do.
Hi, Regina. Hi, Melissa.
I was like, this will not do. There were only a dozen of them. There were only a dozen of these female treasury agents. And I'll be damned if they're going to be forgotten on my watch.
Kay Tench went to the mob museum as well. You know what? In all the years my parents lived out there, I never got to the mob museum.
It's really fun. But again, it's really dark. I mean, you guys, it's a museum devoted to sociopathic killers and thieves. Like
But we're always fascinated with that.
It's
they're just
dark.
fascinated with that.
Now, Max, I did also go to the Neon Graveyard, which is this big outdoor museum of all the old original neon from the Vegas Strip from back in like the 50s or whatever, and up until the present.
Well, yeah.
And Carrie and I went and saw the Barbie movie. It's not all bloody axes and outer space around here. It's it's mostly that. It's not all that.
So it's like, Doc never said that sound effect you had of the skull being crushed really sounded pathetic.
Oh, Max worked hard on that. Yeah. Sometimes, now I'm going to be honest. Sometimes, and I talk to myself while I write, I will give myself the giggles because I know, oh, wait till Max sees this. This is going to be fun for him. I love Robert Fisher. He says, you say sociopathic killers and thieves like it's a bad thing. You are our people, Robert.
As long as it's not happening to you, it is.
Well, we've talked a little bit about the appeal that true crime has for people. It's a kind of magical thinking. Like for women especially, if we fully understand how the bad things happen, then we can protect ourselves from the bad things happening. That's the rock bottom appeal for a lot of people of true crime. And I think I don't know about you, Max. I think that's true for me. I've got such terrible generalized anxiety disorder and have been panicked since I was a child, and I have complex PTSD and all of that. I need to know all of the bad things that could happen.
There was a psychiatrist, I think, that did, and that's where we found out that's what that was all about, that the people that are interested in that it's a way of protecting yourself. I don't know, as a child, I think I was just bizarre and weird that I was going to the library at age 12 and getting books on the Manson killing and, serial killers and the Sam Shepard murder and all the other weird. The Sam Shepard murder, I saw a thing on television. I got everything, newspaper articles and stuff. I'm not doing schoolwork, but I'm
right, but you're
doing the Sam Shepard stuff. So,
well, there's an episode that I'm working on. I don't know when we'll get it. I don't know when it'll land because it's do you know what a tardigrade is? Do you know what tardigrade is? Its nickname is water bear. It's a tiny microscopic animal that can survive in the vacuum of space. It's native to Earth. There are tardigrades. There are little water bears. You can't see them with the naked eye, but they're really cute. They look, Heather, do you think you could post up a link to what a tardigrade looks like? They look like little cartoon Michelin men bears. They can survive the most extreme temperatures. They can survive in the vacuum of space. They're extraordinary. They're extremely prolific. And how the hell does that work? How does any of that work?
Here's a link to what they look like from National Geographic.
Yeah. Look at Billy Privet. They used one on Discovery. Yeah. NASA's done a lot. Science has done a lot of experimentation with the tardigrade because apparently, they're just the most resilient, baffling little life forms. And I'm fascinated with them. But if you think an unsolved axe murder's a tough sell, Here I am. What do you think about an episode about a microscopic animal that you can't kill? Yeah, look at Shannon Pedroso. My 13-year-old son informed me they can survive space. Water bears. The fact that he knows it is lovely. Shannon, that is a bright, bright boy. And yes, they can survive the vacuum of space. Y'all, you can drop a Dixie cup full of tardigrades on the moon, come back for them 5 years later, and they're like, where you been? That's freaking real, and yet 100% real. Yeah.
thought Neil Lacroix said something on there, and I just wanted to say hi to him. And then there was somebody had said you were getting books on serial killers and the Manson murders, but you were reading. And I said, that was, I think, when my parents, I think that's all they cared about. They went, oh, look, he's not watching television, he's reading. I don't think they were really investigating too much what I was reading.
My mom always felt like, as long as you were reading, take the win, because better a kid is reading than zoned out watching Bugs Bunny. And I have to say, well, I was about to say reading that stuff certainly didn't do me any harm, but I'm going to reflect on that one for a second because maybe it certainly shaped my view of the world. We'll say that. Let me answer Carolyn Allen's question. Where's Bob? I tuned in late. Bob and Lamar will be here next week for happy hour. We gave Bob tonight off because Max and I knew we were going to do a true weird happy hour. And I got to tell you, I love Bob Lacey so much, but that is a man who does not have even a passing interest in, axe murders and
true crime,
tardigrades and the Fermi paradox and, any of it. So we spared him that. Tina Clark, I'd love your opinion on Sam and Colby's newest video series on investigating the Conjuring house. Yeah. Let us take all of that in, and then we'll talk about that, because I need Max to get caught up on that one too. And Teresa's right, Max. Better reading about axe murders than planning them. And I think on that uplifting and inspirational note, because it's after 8:00.
It is.
We'll wrap up, but just want to thank all of you for joining us on Wednesday night, which was kind of, weird, because we've never, in all of our time, we've never done a happy hour on Wednesday night. But we're gonna do this sometimes. If it's a choice between moving it and not doing it at all, what would y'all rather we did? Move it or not do it? We'd rather move it, but y'all can let us know. We just didn't want to cancel and then skip it. So that's where we were. And I will tell you that usually I say tomorrow on the regular show, the People's Movie Critic. So it's not tomorrow, but on Friday, the People's Movie Critic is reviewing a movie that's on Amazon Prime Video right now, starring Tommy Lee Jones and Jamie Foxx. And it's called The Burial. I can't wait. I love those two actors. I cannot wait to watch that. So that'll be Friday morning with the People's Movie Critic. And then next week, we'll have Lamar and Bob bringing you happy hour. And Heather, was there anything else that we wanted to wrap up with?
I don't think so. I think you've covered them all.
We've got Talking Lamar that's coming up on Friday. That's going to be on the Oddcast about superstitions and where they came from. That is really, it's very entertaining. It really is.
Yeah, I think you'll like that. So, and Friday we'll have the Talking Lamar about superstition, and then Friday's True Weird Stuff. After the intensity of the Dozier School, we're going to go ahead with an episode called Swing That Axe, just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. Thanks an awful lot for joining us tonight.
And we appreciate, thank you for listening to True Weird Stuff. We really appreciate it.
We really do. We work really, really hard on it, and knowing that there's even one person listening to it, and there's more than one, but knowing that you're enjoying it and that you look forward to it is pretty much like the payment that keeps us going, because we're so excited when somebody comments or DMs or writes a review. Max and I trip over ourselves getting to tell each other about it. Like, did you see something that really liked that episode, or they're enjoying the podcast? So it does. We see every bit of it, and it means the world. Thank you so, so very much. And y'all, I want you to right now, wherever you are, unless you're holding a steering wheel or a baby, round of applause for Heather on her big night, which is coming up.
She's going to be, somebody asked what you were doing. You're addressing your college. They got on here late, but you're addressing your college.
It's a panel. Yeah, this is making me nervous.
I'm waiting for the call from Northern Virginia Community College, but they haven't gotten in touch with me.
We're so proud. You know what, Max? A couple more of these kind of hair-raising episodes, mister, and I think something could happen for you.
Possible.
Anything is. All right, y'all. We love you so much. We'll see you on the regular show tomorrow. We'll see you next week for Happy Hour with Bob and Lamar. And hopefully we'll see you Friday night for the next episode of True Weird Stuff. Cheers,
right.
everybody. Good night.
Good night.